Well, it was a tough loss. We didn't go there with any other intention to come out a winner, and so we're all stinging from that, players and staff alike, and obviously very disappointed in that. And we've watched the film, and we have not yet met with the players, but we've watched the film, and we left a lot out there offensively. We missed some opportunities defensively. Anytime you lose, it's a shared responsibility. Your staff and your players have to accept responsibility. And I think our people will do that. I'm sure our people will do that. Some things that I saw from a defensive standpoint have to help the players with better calls, obviously getting them in better position to make plays, keep them out of tough situations. We needed to play with better gap integrity in the run game. I thought, we played the pass fairly well. They hit the guy threw some beautiful balls in there, and we were close but didn't make the play. And, in order to be a winner, you've got to make those plays. Offensively, I thought that, given the fact that we lost our starting quarterback and our starting wide receiver, early in the game, we responded by running the ball well. Unfortunately, in the second half, really from the third quarter on, it was hard for us to get a lot going offensively. Some drives stalled. We had to settle for field goals. And, that's disappointing regardless of who's out there playing, because that's not our standard. And so we're going to take a hard look at it with the players tomorrow, and we're going to learn from it. We're going to apply those lessons, and we're going to move on to the next game. And, we've got to find a way, regardless of circumstance, just to play to our standard. Doesn't matter if you're on the road or you're at home or who you're playing. It's always about playing to your standard, and that's a standard that commands respect. And, quite frankly, I've gotten way too many texts and emails from people saying, good job. Well, it wasn't a good job. And to me, that anyone that tells you that was a good job, we should take, and I listen, I appreciate people reaching out. I think it's great. And we want our fans, regardless of how we play, to be proud of their team. And it feels like they are. But from a personal standpoint, us internally as a team, we have to play to a level that doesn't command a good job or an attaboy. It commands respect, and that also starts with self-respect. And so that's our objective.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions for Coach Benny. Go ahead, Luke Swanson.
Hi, Coach. What did you like and not like from your offensive line play yesterday? Seems like the run blocking was working really well, especially in the inside.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot that I did not like. I thought they did a good job of protecting our quarterback, and I thought they did a nice job in the run game. I think that was reflected in the way we were able to run the football. There's always little technique things that we're trying to clean up, communication things that we're trying to clean up, but there was nothing glaring in terms of things that we didn't like. So the things that we liked, obviously, was, our ability to establish a run. That's so important, I think, in any football game, is not getting into a situation where you're struggling to run it and you have to throw it every down, because then they can tee off on you a little bit. And so just being able to establish a run game was a real positive. And then I thought that they did a good job in protection. Utah State brought a lot of different types of pressures. And before the game, I made the comment that they do some, unusual things on defense. They do some things where they just kind of go. And it doesn't necessarily look like the most sound thing on film, but because they're in an attack mode at times, and they've got, big, fast, physical athletes, they can get away with it. And I thought our guys in protection did a nice job of putting up a wall against some of the things that they did. I think, it certainly helped us in the run game that we were able to adjust to their pressures, but we did a nice job in the pass game, protection-wise.
Roger Cleveland, go ahead.
How tough of a spot is that to have a true freshman quarterback put into that early in the game? And how do you think he responded? What did you want to see more out of him or more from him?
I think it's Had he been the starter and been able to prepare as the starter all week long in terms of his rep count during practice, it would have been a different situation than being thrown in, coming in as in a backup role and then being thrown in when Taekwon went down. So it's difficult, more difficult this situation than had he been the starter all along where he'd gotten those reps. I thought that that he adjusted okay. I have high expectations for Zion, but probably not near as high as he has for himself. I mean, the kid is a winner. He's just not lost a lot of games in his life. And, I talked to him briefly after the game. You could just really sense the disappointment. You could see it on his face. And yet he's such a great competitor. I have no doubt that he'll make the most of this opportunity. And we have a lot of confidence in him. It was as you guys know, it was a tight competition right down to the very end. And so now this week he'll have a chance to prepare as a starter, enter the game as the starter. And I think therefore he'll play with a lot more, I don't know the right word is confidence, but maybe a better word would be certainty in what he's doing, a little more certain in what his expectations are. And I think that'll help him.
And what's the situation with Taekwon and Keelan?
Taekwon, we have not yet had the MRI done, but preliminary indications are he has a torn ACL. That's what the on-field examination told us. But you know what? We're going to keep our fingers crossed until we get the MRI results. Keelan has a broken collarbone, and he will undergo surgery very, very soon, early this week. And so, that's usually, minimum. It's a long injury, and I know it's a bone healing, so there's not a lot that he can do in terms of treatment to recover from that. But hopefully he'll make it back at some point this season.
Thank you.
Joe Zone, go ahead.
Yes, Jim, was there a unit that exceeded your game one expectation?
Well, no, no. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say that actually in a positive way. We talked about the offensive line earlier, and I have gone into this season believing that our offensive line could be pretty darn good. And so they didn't exceed my expectations, but they were what I expected them to be. So I don't know if that's a great answer to your question, other than to kind of, put it in positive light that they didn't exceed my expectations because my expectations were high, but they certainly met them. And I'm excited about that group.
Anything else? Gabby from NBC, go ahead.
Hey, I know this may sound kind of like a silly question when you're dealing with a physical game like football, but what do you make of these injuries, especially that early on in the season? And just from your perspective, walk us through as much you can of what you make of watching two of your starters go down that soon.
I think the first thought is always for the player. You know how hard they've worked, and you know how important this is to them, and how committed they've been to this preparation process. And you're talking about, two guys, and there's others that we've lost. You think about Cam Ross, so we've lost two of our starting receivers. We haven't even played a half of football yet, So your first thought always is for the player. Is he okay? What's the seriousness of this injury? And then you kind of have to, because this game demands it, you have to shift focus. While never losing the empathy for the injured player, you kind of have to shift the focus to all right, it is what it is as a team. What do we do now? How do we adjust? Who needs to step in? Who needs to step up? How do we adjust our game plan, our philosophy, our structure, and things like that? I listen, my wife and I took Taekwon home last night after the plane landed. And there's just always this real human element to it when you're at this level. When you're a college coach coaching college kids, it's different than I ever experienced in the NFL when it comes to injuries, especially injuries that are season ending like Taekwon's appears to be. and it just makes it so much more emotional as a coach. And you know, in the NFL, you or at least I was able to move on quicker from a guy getting injury into that. Okay, what do we do now? At this level, it just stays with you longer because you see the life that they're living and the commitment they've made, and you know the timeline can be so short, and to have it happen so early in the year, it's just, you know, you just feel so bad for the kid because you know they feel so bad.
Thank you.
Adam Giordino from ESPN.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. In the week leading up to it, you had talked about the chaos on the headset at times with all the defensive voices chiming in. How did that iron itself out as the game went on?
It was actually outstanding from the very get-go. It was an amazing collaborative effort. Just the input that not only Sariki and Dalton and Kenny gave, but also Mike Ryan, who was up in the booth, and his eyes on the game, and then getting information from him, from some of the other people in the booth that, you know, needed to chart things and see things. It was really good, but I got great information all game from everybody. It wasn't as chaotic as I thought it would be. It was actually really good. I was really appreciative of the kind of collaboration of, you know, the four guys on the field. It felt good, and they were quick to offer suggestions, ideas, quick to make adjustments. You know, I thought that the staff did a really good job of preparing for the halftime adjustments. And I've said it a lot, you're making adjustments all during the game. It's not just halftime that you make adjustments, but they came up with some things structurally we were able to put in at halftime that we hadn't necessarily practiced or planned. And those guys came up with it, and we were able to implement it, and it did help us at times in the second half.
Mike Crispino from ESPN Radio. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, the second quarter turned the game around for them. You go from up 2 scores to down. And looking back at film of it, tape of it, what did you see about what happened defensively with your team after a really good first quarter? The second quarter wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, you know, we responded well in the first quarter, sudden change. In the second quarter, I don't think we responded as well. They got us on our heels a little bit, Mike, and you know, I think we got a little bit gassed. You know, we had to keep going out there on defense at least, and got a little bit gassed. And that's not an excuse. That's not acceptable. We need to make sure we do a better job of, you know, rotating guys through. And then I have to do a better job. We as a staff have to do a better job, like I said, of putting them in calls that, you know, put them in the best situation to succeed. You know, maybe rolling up a corner once in a while when you know they're gassed from running, you know, go routes all game with these tremendous wide receivers they had. Offensively, I feel like we were just adjusting a little bit to the loss of Taquan and that maybe the little different demeanor, tempo that Zion brought, and we lost some momentum. And you know, we can't let that happen. We have to self-correct a lot quicker than we did. So that's something we're certainly going to talk about and work on. And I'll tell you one other thing, Mike, is one of the coaches brought it up this morning. You know, we talk a lot about handling adversity, and we go into detail about how we're going to handle adversity. We talk about handling success, but I don't think I did a very good job of teaching these guys or detailing out how we're going to handle success. And that's something that, you know, is my fault. And we'll be better at that because we know we're going to have success, but we have to handle it better. And we didn't handle it well enough yesterday. And that starts right with this guy that you're talking to.
All right, we'll go back to Roger Cleveland.
Can you just talk a little bit about your linebacker play? I know you said you want to put people in different positions or better positions to make plays, but it seems like those guys just made one play after another most of the game.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. You know, Jackson Mitchell is everything I thought he'd be as a football player. So obviously the first time I've gotten a chance to coach him during a game, and his presence on the field, his intelligence, and he's just a tackling machine. And, you know, with a guy like that, you want to play a structured defense, but you don't ever want to inhibit a guy like Jackson from just going and making plays. And so there's that fine line we walk with him. But I love watching him play. Ian Swinson's like a rocket ship out there. You know, I mean, he just flies to the football. And then, you know, we played a little more 4-down stuff yesterday because we were going against a spread, you know, type of offense. So Randall Boyer played a little bit more of a defensive end position, hybrid outside linebacker, as did Marquez. But I like our linebacking group. You know, I think they're a really good group of players. They're fun to watch. They're fun to coach.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, back to Luke Swanson, and we'll have time for one more if there's one.
Coach, what's your analysis about what worked and what didn't work in the passing game yesterday? I saw a lot of rollouts, a lot of screens.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, Luke, what we were trying to do, especially when Zion went in, is give him things that he felt really comfortable with, you know, and things that he could execute. And that was, you know, kind of the movement game. It wasn't necessarily successful for it. As a matter of fact, you guys saw the interception late in the game, you know, on the rollout action. The screen game gave us some plays, and they played them well a couple times, which is pretty standard. You know, we're going to have to be able to take more shots down the field or mid-range. And I think, as I said earlier, as Zion gets the practice reps that he needs as a starter, that'll become more clear for him. But we just really were trying to do things offensively that he felt comfortable doing. And that's really the role of a coach.
Thank
Okay,
you.
last one for today. Gavin, Keith, go ahead.
How is the offense different, or is it different with Zion running the show as opposed to Taekwon?
You know what? I don't think it'll be much different. They're similar in their abilities. You know, I think we'll have to see. I can't give you a great answer right now. We have to see how much, you know, Zion can handle during the week. You know, it's not going to be an easy week for that kid. You know, classes start tomorrow, so he's got his first day of college tomorrow, and now he's a starting quarterback of a D1 program. You know, so it's going to be a stressful week for him. But he's a mature young man. I think he'll handle it well, and I know Nick will do a great job of creating an offensive package this week that puts him in position to succeed.